Oh, there we go. Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast on a Monday. James, how are you doing on this finally fall feeling, at least in Atlanta, night thing? I ran out of steam about 3 words into that.
It's okay. That's why we both do the stream together, so then we can both run a stream at the same time. If anything. So,
Indeed, indeed.
yeah, I'm doing just dandy. No issues. It's a Monday night, like you said, start of the week. Kind of dealing with some work stuff to try to work on some bugs. Working in games, but solved that, and that was a nice end to my day. And now here I am hanging out, with my buddy, and gonna do some animation and talk about pop culturally kind of stuff,
Works for
but in a
me. I'm
more,
ready for it.
more nerdy geek kind of term. But yeah, so I'll just kind of get into it. I'll share my screen and we can kind of pick at tonight's topics, I guess. Huh?
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan.
So all right. I've kind of been in Warhog mode the past few weeks. So
Mm-hmm.
the intention tonight is to just work on this pose for the Warhog, which I kind of already have here in our library a little bit with this
Mm-hmm.
pose. But I also noticed, like last week, and here I am being hypocritical. But I did mention how I want to have things kind of loosey goosey with Calamity Jane, where things are kind of on model but not at the same time. But for me, like with this Warhawk here, I'm happy with the pose except for the hair. His
Mm-hmm.
hair is a little too high
Mm-hmm.
compared to the rest of the poses here I'm looking at. So I'll adjust that going in, and then I'll see if that pose even works for this particular spot here where Leon is face to face with the Warhog. And kind of pick some more spots to kind of tighten up some stuff, some spots for Warhog. That's the plan for tonight. So, yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, I am starting a D&D campaign. Not as a DM, just as a player. My friend is the
Uh,
DM. But it might surprise you and everybody to learn that I have never played D&D before.
wow, it does surprise me. I am
Yeah.
surprised
Yeah.
very much so about this. Huh. You played every other version of an RPG,
Right. Everything
digitally
that came
speaking,
from it,
right?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So okay, so I've the last my last outing I played with some friends doing Pathfinder, which is an offshoot of D&D.
Yeah.
Very similar. There are stat sheets and everything else. So I know I mean, we could definitely talk about D&D in that regard. But my biggest question to you is what are you? What character class are you?
I am
What's your name?
playing.
All that stuff. I can't wait to hear this.
Okay, so I am playing a variant human barbarian,
Okay.
and a variant human gets like a slight. So a regular human gets basically across the board like a +1 or +2 to every skill
Uh
automatically.
huh. Yes.
But if you play a
Mm-hmm.
variant human, you get +2 to 2 skills, but you also get a third special skill, right? That is only accessible if you play as a variant human, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. My character's name is Brand, and it
Okay.
is all part of his overly thought out, ridiculous backstory. Um, I we started, my friends and I started one campaign, but it kind of imploded for a couple of reasons, and so it's a slightly different group, and we're giving another the shot. And um, uh, uh, um, and so I decided to play the same character again, not roll a new one, because like I never really got a chance to play around with the character. And when I did it, I kind of just wanted to play a character that was just going to hit things really hard, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Yeah.
so that's what I went with. It's just a barbarian that has a big giant hammer, and he just hits things really hard with it.
Cool. Cool.
And
So your weapon of choice is a sword or an axe. What do you have?
it's a big two-handed warhammer, and
Okay.
I just run around and I bash things in the skull with it. And the character, I mean, I wrote like a really long backstory for it. for him.
Uh-huh.
But basically, there's a god, a goddess in this in D&D called the Raven Queen of Death, and he worships her. And in fact, he's in love with her in the same way that Thanos was in love with Death in the Infinity Gauntlet
Mm-hmm.
storyline. So I completely stole that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
storyline. He's like madly in love with her, but instead of trying to destroy the universe to prove his devotion to her, she says, if you want to be with me in my version of the story, you have to find a glorious death to prove your worth to me, right? And so he turns into sort of this just, a work for hire mercenary who's never turns down a fight because he's looking for, sorry, Penny was in my lap. He's looking for that perfect death, right? And so in the campaign, he falls in with these adventurers because he thinks, oh, okay, yeah, these guys are doing crazy shit. Maybe I'll get that perfect death here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he's a fun character. I really like him. We rolled we did all the rolls, did a session 0 yesterday, and
Yeah.
it was great. So the DM, he actually did just a tutorial module. Which was a really great way to introducing people. Now,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so
That's
there was
really
no
cool.
stakes. It was just teaching us how to play the game. Now, once I like the first time when we originally rolled the characters, I'm starting to go through this. I'm like, oh, this is just a video game. Like, I mean, obviously, the D&D came before sort of the modern notion of video game RPGs. But like, oh, I understand how to
Yeah.
do this,
Uh-huh.
and so it's like it just was super easy as a result, right? I mean, just was able to go into it. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the other players were. New to it, and so the tutorial module was great. And he actually has like a Steam, an app that I think Wizards of the Coast released that you can actually build out modules in dungeons and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really fun.
Okay.
We did the tutorial dungeon, and it was I just played my character exactly like I wanted to do it. So the module is broken into 3 parts. The first part is how do you get across a bridge, and just interacting with an NPC and negotiating your way across the bridge. Then the second part was a tutorial about how you use saving throws. So you had to walk through a cave where you were going to take damage, and you had to do a saving throw roll. It was all very explicitly the 3 different phases of gameplay, right? And then the third one
Huh.
was a combat scenario, and it worked perfectly to the way my character handles things. So we get to the bridge, and there's like a magical aura that you can't pass unless you pay a toll to the bridge keeper, and everybody's using their various skills to do it. I walk up to the bridge. I have 0 charisma, right? Middling intelligence. Like, I can't negotiate with the guy. I have no money. I rolled a character
Yeah.
specifically to hit things over the head, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And so I walk up. I say I ignore the bridge keeper, and I just try to walk past it. And the DM says, "Well, you hit a blue wall of magical energy, and it repels you." I'm like, crap. Okay. Well,
Okay. All
one
right.
of my one of my one of my feats or whatever, I don't remember what they're called off the top of my head, is a +3 to nature. And I go, well,
Mm-hmm.
how deep is the river? What can I figure out about this river? And I have a +5 to a D20 roll, and the DM goes, well, I guess roll for nature and let's see what you learn. So I roll like a 23 or something like that, and so I learn everything there is to know about this
Okay.
river. And I'm like, I could survive that. All right, I just swim across it. And he's like, okay, roll to see if you swim across it. And I roll like a 25 or something like that. That's no, it was like a 19 or something, but it was really high. And he's like, yeah, you swim across the river. I just avoided the bridge entirely. Just screw it. And that's exactly what my character would do. It was perfect. So then we get to a cave.
So,
Mm.
so wait, pause for a second. I want to rewind. So you have +5 to all your D20 rolls?
No, 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 no. Just to the nature. That
Just
that's one of my
nature.
that's
Okay,
one of my
okay, got it.
feats as a variant human
Okay.
barbarian. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, sorry. I just want to
No,
make sure I
it's
understood that. Okay.
no, it's all good. So then we get to the cave where we're learning how to do saving throws, and we know that there's loose boulders at the top of this cave, and one of the players actually has a spell that allows them to talk to inanimate objects. And so she uses the
Uh-huh.
spells, and she asks the cave, "Are you a trap?" And the cave says no. And then she's like, "Are you going to collapse if we walk under you?" And the cave says, "Yes." And she goes, "Can you just like let us walk under you, pretty please?" And the cave goes, "No." Right? And so people start going through the cave, and the rocks start falling, and I try to knock some rocks loose, but my javelin that I have sticks in the ceiling. And so eventually I go, okay, Bran realizes that there's no way we're getting through this cave without having rocks fall on us, so I'm just going to stride in. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to be sneaky because I don't have the stats to do anything. I'm just going to walk in the cave and take my licks, right? So I walk in, and I have to do a saving throw, and I pass a saving throw with flying colors, and the DM says, well, Bran just walks confidently in the cave and doesn't even flinch as rocks fall down on all sides around him. It was like, yep, that's exactly what my character would do. And so then we get into the combat section, and so it's like a couple of zombies, and we're all, practicing our combat skills, and like one player's playing as a ranger with a dire wolf. Another player is like a half orc mage, and then there's like 2 half elf wizards, and most people have like all these magic abilities, and all I've got is my hammer, right? So we roll for initiative, and I roll pretty low initiative. And so what the initiative means for people who don't know is that's the turn order, right? And so
it's good that you mentioned that. Like, we should kind of go over some basic D&D terminology. So D20 means dice. Your dice is a 20-sided dice, for example.
Dice.
20-sided dice. What else have we talked about? What else have we mentioned? We're so bad at teaching D&D.
I'm not even making an attempt to teach anybody D&D here. But
I think that's But so roll for initiative means that's what gives you the
turn order
chance to attack.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
isn't there a roll to attack as well?
Well, yeah. So the way attacks work, is I attack the zombie. You have to roll, and you have to roll above the zombie's armor class to hit the AC.
Okay, all right.
And if you roll above the AC, then you strike, and then you roll for damage. And damage usually uses the different, right? So I roll a D10 for damage, which is a 10-sided die, and then I have a +5 to bludgeoning, right? And so what that means, there's like 3 different damage types. There's bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. I don't remember exactly. Just like Monster Hunter, actually. And if an enemy can be weak
just like Monster Hunter.
Yeah, an enemy can be weak to different types of attacks, right? So anyway, so we get into combat, and everybody, because my initiative is so low, pretty much everybody else goes before me, and then I spend the entire battle, like, everybody like softens the zombies up, and then I walk up to a zombie and I just keep rolling these really high numbers, and the DM goes like, you bash that zombie's head in completely. So I was basically just going from zombie to zombie and then just like bashing their heads in because everybody else would like soften them up. But it was hilarious because everybody was, casting spells. I cast magic missile, and here's where I target, and here's why I do this. But then every time it got to my turn, I was like, I walked to the zombie and I hit it with my hammer. And that was it. That was the only thing I did on every turn. And it was like, this is exactly the character that I wanted to play, right?
Yes, that was when I played as a barbarian my first playthrough in Pathfinder. The same thing. It was just, there was something fun about just swinging. Like, I had an axe for my character, but just swinging it around, and you don't have to think about a lot of different types of spells to use and what can you use. And I mean, I don't know. It's just being a wizard.
Exactly.
It's smart that you picked a warrior barbarian class. It's good.
Because some of the things, it's like you can only use this spell once a day, and so you have to be really strategic about this kind of stuff. And then you have to balance utility spells with attack spells. And me, it's just like I walk up to it and I hit it. It's just like I'm a brute, and I love it. I'm super happy that I chose that character, and everybody loves me too because I'm a damage sponge, right? So everybody hides behind me because my strength is like 17. And my strength is just how hard you hit, and my constitution's like 15 or something like that, and that's how much HP that you have. Like, I'm level 1 at 15 HP, right? Which is like 3 points higher than basically anybody else. Like, I mean, I think there's one player that because of the way they
Mm-hmm.
rolled it, they're a glass cannon. So I think their starting HP, which is hit points, that's how much health you have, is like 9. And so I'm almost double at least one other player's HP, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And
That's
so,
hilarious.
yeah. But here's the thing, though, and I hope none of my fellow players, I don't think they watch this stream, but so I don't know that I'm going to be spoiling anything for them. But the DM emailed me and he said, "So this is purely coincidence, but the campaign we're running, the Raven Queen actually plays a major part of it. So we're going to have a conversation offline at some point about how this is going to affect your character, right?" Because
Wow. Okay.
my character is basically neutral. He's not lawful, he's not chaotic, he's
Yeah.
not good, he's not evil. He
Uh
serves
huh.
the
Uh
Raven
huh.
Queen, right? And so
Okay.
if to get his best death is in service of the party, then he'll do that. But if he thinks that to get his best death is in service of completely stabbing the party in the back, then he's going to do that too,
He'll
right?
do that.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
his own morality is completely tied to this one goddess, and so
And
I'm
to that one
curious,
goal.
yeah, exactly, to this single-minded focus, which is I think it's really fun for the character, and since none of the other players are going to know this, once we have this conversation, I'm curious if I'm going to actually end up working against my team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting that I decided to go in this direction.
Um, yeah. What's funny is like as everybody levels up, you become a tank. I mean, I'm
Oh
assuming this
yeah.
is going to happen to your character because this has happened to me, and that very thing happened to my character. Where actually I can't remember if I was zombified or what, but I my character died, and I think it came back as a zombie and then started killing my own party. And I had no, and I had to keep rolling my dice to
Uh huh.
kill my own party, which sucked. But yeah, but it was really interesting. But yeah, but besides the tragic death of that character, it was a lot of fun to play that barbarian character, just being a meat shield and then for my character, and I'm assuming it's the same in D&D, but I had cleave where I could hit if you hit a bunch of enemies all within like a certain radius. They're all like adjacent to each other, and you're within the radius of your axe swing or your sword swing or your hammer swing. You can actually do damage all the way across the board, pretty much 360 around you and stuff like that. So I'm curious what abilities you chose for your character.
Right now I have Rampage or no
Yeah.
Crush. It's called Crush, and basically what it
Uh-huh.
allows me to do if I hit a monster, um, uh, it knocks them back 5 feet, so I can actually like do a little
Okay.
some enemy control. But if I roll a critical hit,
Mm-hmm.
then I get a +5 to damage or something like that. It's something ridiculous, but only if I get a natural 20, right? So and that okay, so that's another D&D lore. If you roll a 20, that's called a natural 20, and it's a guaranteed critical
Mm-hmm.
hit. If you roll a 1,
Yep.
then it's a nat 1, and it's called a critical failure, so you automatically fail, right? All other things remaining equal, you
Mm-hmm.
automatically fail. Um, like there is no enemy that has an armor class 0 as far as I'm aware, but even if you roll a 1, you still miss it because a 1 is just an automatic fail. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I have Rage. I'm trying to remember how
Okay.
all these work. I'd have to go get my character sheet, but Rage basically gives me a +2 on hit for the rest of the turn, but I can only use it like once per battle.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a third
Okay.
one, and I don't remember what it is. But so those are my like sort of special skills, but they're all basically just about murdering things as quickly as possible.
And have you done any loot? Have you had a chance to loot yet, or is it? It's such a ramp up when you have to do the first session. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody gets their character sheets out, and so you probably haven't. You probably just barely scratched the
Oh,
surface on the
we're
first
all at level 1, and
game
I
at
mean, and
least.
Brand is not a character who's going to be looting
Okay.
anybody. I have like a +5 to
Okay.
intimidation though, so I mean, what I would do is just walk up to people and try to intimidate them, and then if that doesn't work, then I'll just hit
Yeah.
him in the head with my hammer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean
Mm-hmm.
that's the way
Yeah.
I'm gonna play it. Is I'm just gonna play a brute because that's what I want to play, right? I'm not. exactly a brute in real life. So getting the opportunity to just play one with no regard
Yeah, to
for,
play one. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and that's kind of one of the reasons why. I mean, aside from the fact that I really like Thanos' motivation, this kind of broken, kind of macabre love that he had for death,
Yeah.
it was such a shame that they lost that very interesting trait from that character in the movies. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to change the subject right now. I've always really liked that in a really dark way. The Infinity Gauntlet storyline is a love story,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah. Hmm.
I kind of want to play this character the same way. It's from
Hmm.
Brand's perspective, this is a love story, right? He is trying to earn the devotion of the object of his affection, right? And so every decision that he makes in its own dark way is an act of love for him, right? And
Hmm.
so it's like,
Hmm.
and the thing that I like about it is that it's something that only this character knows, right? Like none of the other players in real life, like they've not seen this. The only person who's seen this is the DM, and so he's the
Hmm.
only one who knows that my character is playing this almost like a perverse romance, right? And I think it's really fun because it takes off any sort of moral chain. I can do whatever I want as long as it is in service of my love, right? It doesn't matter how violent, it doesn't matter how criminal, it doesn't matter how chaotic. It is just completely, as long as his motivation is pure, then it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. 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 It keeps your life simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
So I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking, but refresh my memory. Did you say that everybody's new, or just like only a handful of you are new, and that's why you're
no,
like who?
so the DM, obviously he's familiar with it, and then
Hmm.
his partner, she's also played D&D, so she's very familiar with it. But and then I'm
Okay.
familiar with it in as much as I've played video games since I was 8 years old,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so
And that
I
does
know it
help.
through
Mhm.
osmosis, right? I mean, just because of video
Yep.
games. So it's not I'm
Yeah.
fine. Like it's like, oh, okay, this is just a video game. I
Mm.
know how to play this.
Yeah.
But then there's the other four players have very, very, if any, exposure to D&D.
Okay.
But they're
All
all
right.
actors, they're all performers, and so they sort of get the role playing aspect of it. And once you roll your
Hmm.
character, the role of the player is actually very easy. The DM is the one who has to do all the work, right? Um,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so yeah, everybody seems really into it. Everybody seems really excited. We've already got session one scheduled, um, and oh wow, that's a great shot. I don't even remember you doing that
This is what.
portal.
Yeah. This is way back when Leon was solo.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah. This is part of our interactive comic book way back when.
yeah, yeah.
Way back time machine.
The
This is
Wayback
from
Machine,
like
the
10 years ago.
Wayback Machine. Yeah, this is like
Yeah. This is a way.
2008.
This is like a these are ancient scroll tablet type stuff. But
Yeah,
again, because the work was done, I'm able to use it as we because once we started working on Calamity Jane, all the stuff is kind of there. But yeah, this whole shot, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
is there still. Yeah, I'm really happy that interactive comic book is going to pay off
Yeah,
doing
no,
some of the
that
work.
that
But
looks really. I mean, that's a marketing shot right there. That's a trailer shot.
yeah, now that we have our IG up and running, maybe we could probably put some of these shots in here.
Yeah,
But
I'd
man, I
love
mean,
to
I
get
think I
some
just got
stills.
yeah, I mean, I think I just got lucky with some of these shots. I really do
I mean, don't
because I'm
sell
really happy
yourself
with them too.
short.
So I'm happy that you're. So, yeah, but I'm happy that you got the same feeling that I did. It's like, oh my, I was like, man, our
Yeah,
comic was so cool,
yeah, yeah. I
But
remember
again,
that. Yeah, I remember that you used like a JavaScript applet, or no, it was a Flash applet to actually make the
yeah, it was the
pages
Flash. Yeah,
interaction, so you could actually turn the pages
yeah,
like a real comic book.
yep. You could
And
actually turn the pages. Yeah,
I mean, the one
yeah.
thing I am
And
sad
then
about,
I mean, I still have it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's right. I mean, nothing supports Flash anymore, but I think you can just run it natively, and it'll be fine. But I remember back because we were gonna do it as a digital comic, and I had so
Yeah.
much fun doing the layouts. I one of these days I wish
Oh yeah.
we should do like a one off because I had
I
so
s-
much fun thinking about all of the layouts and you know. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah. Yeah. And I use some of them too. Like somebody just like you did little chicken scratching things in your script. You little chicken scratch little boxes,
Mm-hmm.
of little stick figures and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. It was super helpful, and it got me going and start thinking about some of the shots too. So we'll dig them up. I have them. I have your physical copies here. I have them
Really?
like archived in one of my boxes and stuff. I still have them. But what I want to do is scan them, and then we can maybe we'll do a stream about that one of these days, like way back machine stuff. What back when Leon was solo.
Yeah. It was so
So
much fun. One of my a book that was just so instrumental to me in learning how to write, honestly. And it's so crazy to think about this. It's a book called Understanding Comics by the comic book writer artist Scott McCloud, and
yep, great book.
I can see it right here, right? Like I always have it on my shelf. I will never get rid of it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and one of the he spends a huge amount of time discussing the nature of the gutter between the panels, and
Mm-hmm.
does this brilliant analysis. Um, he does this brilliant analysis of how the gutters are like the space between the frames in a movie, and so the time that your eye takes to register one frame to the next frame, it creates the motion blur, and that's what creates the motion
Yep.
of a movie. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how, like, 1/24th of a second is how long um, uh, uh, 1/24th of a second is how long your brain keeps an image in its place before you can replace it with the next one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so as long as you're replacing
Mm-hmm.
images 1/24th of a second or more, then everything looks smooth. Once you drop below 1/24th of a second, things start looking a little bit jittery, right? Anyway,
Yeah.
so Scott McCloud, the way he described it was is that the gutter, while it's not exactly the same thing, what it does do is your mind is filling in the blanks from one panel to the next panel. And so if you've got Batman swinging on a rope in one panel, and then the next panel is him landing on the roof of a building, then your mind is filling in the blanks of him swinging over to the building, right? And he really does this fabulous job of explaining how layouts work, and how you can control the reader's um, gosh darn man how you can control the reader's perception of what's happening on the page by intelligently laying out um,
Mm-hmm.
the panels, and how each panel works and where the gutters operate and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just really, really brilliant stuff, really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great book. Yeah, highly recommend reading it.
Yeah.
It's great. It's even great for. I think it's actually good for film too because comic books are just a narrative form that just gives pretty much a storyboard in a sense. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it kind of goes hand in hand with filmmaking too, because you're still trying to tell a story linearly, and what's
Mm-hmm.
the best way to get the shot to get and then film has its own strengths, and comics has its own strengths because you get to linger on a page, linger on a shot forever. Film you can't sometimes. You can for a little while, but you do have to move on
Mm-hmm.
unless that's your intention is to be avant-garde or something.
Right. Right. Which is, yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, that he really, I love that book. I have it somewhere myself. It's a great book. It's a must read for anybody who wants to do any kind of linear art,
Yeah,
telling a
whether it's
story.
any sort of linear visual art, right? Because it works a
Mm-hmm.
little bit different if you're writing short stories or novels because you don't have the visual component of it. But if you're doing any
Yeah,
visual art, comic books, television, movie, what have you, it is invaluable. It is an absolutely invaluable tool. I can't recommend it enough.
yep, 100% agree on that one too. Um, yeah, so let's see. We were talking about understanding comics. We were talking about D&D. How do we get into understanding comics now? The movie that turned
we
around.
because we saw
How do we?
there was no connective tissue between D&D to understanding comics. I saw
Okay.
the portal opening. I'm like, oh wow, that's
Oh,
cool.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, that's yeah, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for bringing me back. It's like, man, how do we connect this to D&D again? Oh yeah, it's me doodling and throwing, going all over the place. We're going all over the place, but that's what we normally do anyway. So that's part of the
Yeah,
course.
that's pretty par for
So
the course.
yeah. But yeah, I'm just I you know as we're talking, I'm still kind of I'm jumping all over the place in our act one. Like just dropping warhogs left and right.
Well, now that you've
Trying to
got
just
so
tighten
much
up
of the
the tighten up.
warhogs, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But he's definitely all over the place now, and it's starting to feel tighter and tighter for Act One.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's a lot. It's getting to a point now where I mean, there's a couple of drawings still left to do, but for the warhog, he's got a
Yeah, you
lot
might be
going.
pretty much done with the warhog in Act One.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there. Definitely. Yeah. So speaking of D&D in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
I will use some connective tissue. But I am playing a game called Wargroove on my Switch right now. I know. I mean, I kind of was kind of trying to sell you on a little bit, but I am really digging this game. I think it's a really it's and again, people that like Advanced Wars are looking for something to scratch that itch. This game definitely does that. But the difference with this game, and I don't even remember, I didn't play it with Advanced Wars enough to even recall this or not, but does every faction in Advanced Wars have their own unique set of um, troops and units
Yes
to
and
use?
no. I mean, there's a lot of blend over, but there is some uniqueness between the different factions. And then the
Yeah, okay.
leader of every faction also has their own unique ability as well. So
Yeah.
yes,
So
there
in
are. Yeah,
Wargroove,
there is. Yeah.
it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. In Wargroove, it's just the CEO or the commanding officer, or whatever, is the unique thing. It's all about them,
Mm-hmm.
and then the all the units that follow with them are all the same across all the teams that I've seen so far. But the game is it's all about the hero that you choose to lead your army, and as you play the game, they get a superpower as you kill X amount of units. Then they can use that power either to heal like X amount of troops around their squares or to teleport a character across the map someplace else. It's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. But it's all fantasy based too. So this is where the D&D, this is where the connective tissue is at. But it's funny because you still moving a character to a square like in D&D, and you pretty much hit the button to roll your hit to see if you get the random number generation to do what you need to do the damage you want. And things go up if you're next to another adjacent square next to another unit, and that could probably increase your crit rate and stuff like that. So yeah, it's funny how I guess it's a weird, really long way of saying that D&D has such an influence on so many video games.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's not even funny.
I mean, and at this point, its influence is so ingrained at this point. The people who are making games now may not have ever even played D&D and may not even have any
Yeah, it's
perspective
weird, huh?
on where a lot of these conventions come from, which is an interesting kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm not seeing
So
much else
how
to
long?
do on the Warhog in Act One at this point.
I'm kind of trying to avoid showing the whole Act One, but I'm going to go back a little bit.
Okay.
Let's just assess our scene here.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, I'm going to play it all the way through. So there, I'll even zoom in a little bit more.
Uh oh, everybody, you're getting a special sneak peek here.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, this is what you do when you're animating. You have to watch everything, watch the
Mm-hmm.
pacing. This area still needs work with climbing Leon, which I'll do. That's still on my to do list. The fire needs work still. I'll get there eventually. Okay, that part I need to work
Is
on.
all
Okay, and
rough,
this
yeah.
part is pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that needs some work there.
Mm-hmm.
One, two, and then there we go.
Yeah. Ah, okay.
Oh,
So I'll
there's
do this.
yeah. Okay.
Those two drawings. Yeah, those two drawings I need to still do.
Okay.
Which maybe I'll save for another stream next week. But yeah, but yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff actually is done. I need to drop into Act One. It's already been done,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of this is sketch here. But yeah, then the Warhog is here again. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good. I think we're in a pretty good spot to stop for
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. I
I
think
think.
so. I think we had a good conversation about D&D and understanding comics by Scott McCloud. And I feel like we've talked about Scott McCloud's book in previous
Oh yeah,
streams, but there's no harm in like coming back to that again.
yeah. No, I mean nothing's. No, we'll beat we'll be fanboys and beat something that like be like a dead horse, I guess,
One of these
on some
days
of the
we'll
stuff.
like sell
Because
one copy of it, and that'll be enough.
oh man, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it's a good book,
The
so
more
I don't mind
people who
talking
read
about
it, the
it.
better, as far as
Probably
I'm
not any.
concerned.
Yeah, definitely. But cool.
All right.
Yeah, we'll call this good for tonight,
Sounds
and
good. Sounds good. Another
move on
kind
to
of
next week.
shortest stream, but that's okay. Everybody, how try that again. Why don't you consider heading on over to calamityjane.rocks? It'll take you to our Patreon page where you can join up as a subscriber and help us make this cartoon a reality. Obviously, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube. Facebook is still where we post most of our general updates. We are starting to populate our Instagram page. Calamity Jane Salamander is our handle. Head on over there and consider following that for us. I see that we've already got like 4 or 5 followers, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's about it in terms of marketing stuff. We'll be back at the same time, the same usual time next Monday. So yeah, that's it for me. Any final thoughts from you, James?
No, no other final thoughts. Yeah, just we'll catch up next week. More Warhawk stuff to do, but we are getting closer and closer for
Yes.
Act One, so it's cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.